Okay. Hi, I'm Laura Borden.
Oh,
Taylor.
hi, I'm Taylor Claire.
We are joined by Mitchell, Roy, and Tyler, and our current event project was on pet food sales, soar, boosting Nestle, and luring other players. So, in this chart that we found online, it says the global pet food market forecast from 2018 to 2026. So, the top companies for pet food are the J.M. Smucker Company, Mars, Nestle, and Wag Foods. And you can see that on the map section that North America is the highest region buying pet food. And then on the section right below, it has dog food is over.
Okay, we've lost Laura. We've lost all sound. This may need a plan B.
Am I back?
You're back.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Okay, can you just go back to the previous screen and I'll edit out these things.
Do you want me to go through it again?
Yeah, just start over there. Yeah.
Okay. So the top companies are the J.M. Smucker Company, Mars, Nestle, and Wag Foods. And then if you go over to the map section, you can see that North America has the highest region of buying pet food. Then right below that, you can see that the dog food takes about 40% of the market, cat food is around 30%, and then other pet food is around 5%. And then to the right of that, you can see that the market by distribution channel, it's actually store-based retailing where people mostly buy it rather than the internet, which I thought was interesting. And then the key takeaways is that pet food sales are soaring, boosting revenue at packaged food giants such as Nestle, Mars, and General Mills. Since 2010, 61% of an increase in global pet food sales. And they're similar to other packaged foods. Pet food is starting to see an increase in healthier, organic, and more customized options. And smaller competitors are growing fast, such as like Amazon has their own pet food thing, and then Will Smith and Naz, which are two like famous people, are investing in companies such as Jinx. And then
So just going into one of those consumer giants in this industry, we looked at Nestle and their Purina brand. And if you remember back on the second slide, Laura showed the picture of the market by category, and I was surprised that dog food was actually the highest because I feel like I've heard most about the Purina brand for cats. But so for Nestle, their North American volume growth for the past year was the best in a decade. They have their Purina Pet Care, Purina Pro, and Purina One plans, and they also do their Tidy Cats litter, which had double-digit growth. So between Nestle and Mars, they control about 43% of the global pet food market, and they defend their shares by investing in emerging pet foods and snacks. They also fund U.S. startups such as Basepaws and Dig, which are two kind of smaller ones looking into more of the organic things. Basepaws sequences DNA of cats to provide healthy and dietary recommendations, while Dig is actually an online dating app that connects like-minded dog owners, which I thought was really cool.
Come on. Wait a minute. Dating apps for dogs?
It's for the people, but they connect like-minded dog owners, so like two like beagle owners, like two Dalmatian owners.
Okay.
I don't know. We did not look into it, but maybe we should throw Laura on there, see what happens.
Okay. Now let me just ask you a question here. Is it seems like the business for pet food is growing. What do you think is driving that? Is it just people having more pets?
we get into it a little more into the slide, but I think it's more because people are adopting dogs and like really treating them like a member of the family. So they want to like treat them better and get them like more organic and healthier food.
Well, why do you think if you're taking an old brand like Purina, which has been around for as long as I remember, why can't a company like Kraft Heinz do this? We got to wait. Why?
I mean,
Tyler, you're back. We're just saying, why couldn't Kraft Heinz do some of the? Why aren't they growing the same way Purina is?
I think it's probably has something to do with because, like you said, Purina's been around for so long that they're able to like develop more of their organic segment, and they can allocate more of their time and resources into this when Kraft Heinz has so many other profitable segments like they're worrying about, but Purina is just like Nestle has their Purina and it's just about their pet food, and I don't think Kraft Heinz has a division just like that and like a brand just for pet food that they can allocate the time and resources to like Nestle can with Purina.
But they kept changing and adding new lines, like Purina Pro.
I think that it just comes, again, it just more or less comes down to that they feel like this is more beneficial for them to look into, but Kraft Heinz has not decided this is one of the ones that they want to kind of segue into.
Okay.
So then moving on, Laura, will you like the thing?
Yeah.
Or can I do it? I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So talking about the consumer giants as a whole, sales of packaged foods and snacks have slowed in recent years, and there's pressure on the consumer giants such as Nestle, Kraft Heinz, Unilever to find new growth avenues. They need to continue to differentiate their products to be profitable, including determining how to take advantage of the growing pet food market while keeping products unique. And so the smaller companies that we mentioned, like Amazon, are posing a threat to consumer giants due to healthier or more locally sourced foods. So then looking a little bit into perfect competition and perfectly elastic demand curves, a perfectly competitive industry has a large number of small firms selling identical products. There's no market control or ability to control the price, and the demand curve is perfectly elastic. There needs to be equality between price, average revenue, and marginal revenue. This is not what the pet food market sees. It's not perfectly competitive and not perfectly elastic. And we said that while they do have some characteristics, the product is not a commodity, it is more of a luxury, so the market is not perfectly competitive. And while there are numerous amounts of firms selling the premium pet food, each brand does offer different benefits, so the products are not identical, and therefore each firm has little effect on the price. There is only a select number of firms in the industry. It's not as large as other perfectly competitive industries. And so we think that because it's not really an essential product to customers, it's not going to be perfectly elastic or perfectly competitive.
So moving on to moving towards healthier options. So as pet owners increase their spending, brands are moving more towards healthier options, including pet food. So pet food now includes organic, customized, grain-free, non-GMO, like all of mostly like organic things. And different companies is like Tails.com, which is tailor-made dog food maker. So like you basically go online and customize your own dog food. Jinx is actually a company that Will Smith invested a lot of money into, and it blends meats with superfoods for dogs. Beast Paws is, Taylor mentioned it before, but it sequences DNA of cats to provide healthier and dietary recommendations to customer for their animals. And then they have a bunch of scientifically formulated brands. So it's moving the pet food market into like kind of like how even our food market is. It's moving it into like a much more organic based, and it's like increasing the price of all of this too.
Okay, so it's moving the same way people are.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think people want to eat healthier, and then I feel like when they start eating healthier, they realize that like what's in like the food that they're feeding their pet. And since pets have become such like an important part of like people's family lives now, people are more inclined to buy better food for them.
And I think we touch more on this later, but we do like refer to this a lot as a luxury because just like with people, it's not like you have to eat organic, or it's not their dogs or their cats have to eat organic, but it's something that when we're like having a good economy and when people have the money to spend on it, they will. But we kind of touch on it later, like how it's going to change with like the current economic state because it's really not a necessity.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then this is just a little chart that I found online that it's consumer perception of natural and organic pet food. So like I consider natural and organic pet foods to be safer than regular pet foods. So you can see that, I mean, well, 32% had no opinion, but 22% strongly agreed with it. And then somewhat agreed with it was 28%, which I feel like, well, that's like almost, well, that is 50% of the population is agreeing with that. So you can see that dog food is becoming like much more like luxury dog food is becoming much more of like a thing than it ever was in the past.
So we were gonna do a class vote, So we were gonna have everyone close their
We
eyes.
still
And,
can do that, yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Could
You
you
can
ask?
do that. You got Roy and you got Tyler, and Tyler else with Mitchell, and you get your
Perfect.
answer.
Okay, you guys are gonna have to tell us what you say. So, to explain the two options, do you guys think that the increase in the revenue and profits is because there was an increase in demand or an increase in quantity demanded? And the difference between the two is the increase in demand is a rightward movement of a given demand curve. It's due to various determinants of demand while keeping price constant, so like a change in income, distribution of income, things like that, and it's unaffected by price. If price increases or decreases, demand will not change unless other factors are at play. But an increase in quantity demanded is an upward shift along a given demand curve. So this is more like the law of demand. As price increases, demand will decrease and vice versa. So we were wondering what your guys' thoughts were. You can obviously see ours. There was supposed to be like a little thing, but
Very thingy, but
Tyler
good
says
job.
an increase in demand.
I'm gonna go with increase in quantity demanded.
Oh,
Oh.
I think
It'd be different.
Mitch.
it would be, when you look at it, I think it's an upward shift in the demand curve because it's increasing the price because you're moving to a bigger demand for organic and healthier food.
So we were thinking the increase in demand more because where it says like the change in consumer taste and preferences because people are starting
Okay.
to now have like the preference for organic food and healthier options. But I think that it could be a little bit of both because like now where we're at with people not wanting like people more inclined to save money as the price is still high for this I don't know, for this premium food, the demand has decreased like now because people don't want to spend the money on that. So they need to lower their price to meet the demand. So
Good point. Good point.
it could be a little bit of both.
Okay. But a good distinction between them, I think. I think when we get into looking at companies in the what we're going to look at is on Thursday is assumptions, and this is going to be a good example of where you put of how to come up with some of these assumptions because this will be important.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So moving on.
Oh wait, Laura, is this you?
I think this is you.
Okay. So we just wanted to talk through some of like the key takeaways that we had mentioned earlier and kind of put those like what they mean now. So what? So we said that the major growth enabler of the pet food market is the increasing trend of how pets are treated as part of the family, like Laura said, which is increased spending on pet food. And while the sales have been soaring, the hitting the 91 billion in 2018, consumers are moving towards healthier options and causing consumer giants to have to adapt to these changing times within human food, pet food, whichever. Pet food has been a spot for consumer giants to outweigh weaker snack bar and yogurt sales. So I think that that's part of what Nestle is looking at versus maybe Kraft Heinz hasn't kind of moved over to yet. And the pet food sales might come to a halt surrounding the coronavirus due to consumer spending. And I think that that is something that really needs to be put into perspective.
Yeah, because what are the two ways that could impact that? I mean, if you think about it, what are the factors there if you go deeper on Corona?
We actually have a slide on that.
Oh, wow. You're ready. Okay.
Yeah. So we connected it to coronavirus because we also finished this like right before before like we got shut down.
Yeah.
So it says, given the companies are continuing to dedicate time and resources into premium organic packaged foods and pet foods, do you think that there is an increased risk in attempting to develop and sell the products with the current worldwide scare of coronavirus? So we're going to have a discussion about that, I guess.
Go ahead. What do you think?
I think that since consumer spending right now, like even going into a grocery store now, you walk in and there's like nothing really on the shelves, and I feel like like consumers are more spending on excuse me, I think consumers are more spending on just like grabbing their dog food, like they're not taking the time out to like think like, oh, this is a luxury brand, this is this. Like even going into like the meat department, like now you don't like normally it'd be like, oh, I'll get the organic chicken, but now I'm like, I'm just gonna grab whatever is there because like one, I'm on a budget now, and then two, like you're not gonna like think about it, you're just gonna take what you have. So I think that the pet food market is taking a large hit because of this, because especially since so many brands are moving towards like the luxury stuff and not really focusing on the cheaper brands, the cheaper options of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with so many global economies forecasted to be negatively affected, well, we just talked about it, but do you think the markets of luxury goods will be affected? And I think that they're being affected greatly because of this.
I agree. I mean,
Sure.
just speaking from we have 2 cats and we actually are going to get pet food later today. And instead of getting like the ones that we usually get, we just like contacted like PetSmart and we're getting like their basic, whatever their cheapest option is, because we
Mhm.
don't want to be like my parents don't think that it's important to spend money on that like right now.
Yeah.
So priorities would change of what's important to you.
Like yes, and I think that the pet food and like Laura said, a lot of the different like luxury markets, as you could say, I think are going to be pretty like hit hard during this.
Do you think people will still have pets, or do you think people will try to get rid of pets because the
I like, so I don't know if it was just me, but being like alone and realizing that I had nothing to do, I was like, I kind of want to get like a dog, but my mom shut that down. But I feel like I've noticed a lot more people, since they have really nothing to do, are actually shifting towards buying more animals during this time. And I've noticed like a lot of my friends and stuff have like offered to foster dogs. So I don't know if it's just because no one really has to go, like no one's really going to work and they can actually take the time to like raise an animal. But I feel like it's kind of different. I feel like the people that already have pets are like not spending as much money on them, but then also people that don't have pets are buying like are getting more of them. So I think
right. I see your mic came on.
Yeah, actually, I live right up the street from Lollipop, and they just got done with like kind of like a blowout, kind of like they're just trying to adopt out animals, and they got rid of all the adoption fees, and they adopted out all their animals. Like they have no more animals left. And this was like 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Tyler Mitchell, any thoughts? Text them in. Are you sick, Laura?
I'm a little sick, I'm not gonna lie.
Is it an allergy?
I think it's allergies, but I mean, I'm in Geneseo because I wasn't allowed to go home. So I'm quarantined here.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, I've
So
been social distancing.
I can't
No.
hear you.
No, we can't hear you, Tyler. Should I write that?
Yeah. Tyler,
Laura,
do you
are you one
think?
of the students that has COVID-19?
I do know a lot of people that actually have it now.
Ew.
What are they? Are you afraid of that?
Yeah,
Are you scared?
I don't have the best lungs, so I'm a little scared.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
But it kind of freaked me out how it said that that kid that was at Geneseo started showing symptoms March 15th, so like he had it for like at least a week beforehand.
And like we
So
were
like,
also
definitely like a lot of people have it.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here to hear Laura has it. Breaking news.
And no breaking news. No, I'm kidding. I don't have it. A lot of my
Okay.
friends at home have it.
Well, you cannot, as of right now, it can't be passed through pets. So I feel like that could be another reason why people might go get pets. It's not like the pets can get it.
That is true.
Okay. It's a good thing. So good. It's interesting. So I think you wonder with some of this, we clearly see this shift that you've identified, that pet upscale food to more healthier food, just like humans. But we're going to see this decline just like we would see high-end GMO foods and organic foods go down because it becomes a cost equation.
For sure.
Exactly.
Okay. And your last slide says questions, right?
Yeah. It just is a little.
Okay. Great. So what we'll do is I'm going to take this, I'll edit out some of the blank spaces, and we'll put it out there. And then what you want to do is check as people watch it and respond, if you could respond to their comments.
Okay.
Make sense? You're back.
Yep.
Oh, you can hear us. Oh, good. Let's go back a little bit. Go back one slide if you could.
One slide. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that one there. Yes, we can hear you very clear now.
All right.
Okay, so what do you think about what is going to happen with the pet foods? Do you think that there's going to be a decrease in demand for these higher end products?
Yeah, no, my question was more about the long-term effect. I think you guys were touching up on how people are going and buying pets now, but the long term, when people kind of realize that we're in this for like the long run, and that there's going to be, I think the unemployment rate was supposed to be expected to be around 32%. What's the long-term effect on pet sales, and specifically, I guess, organic, inorganic pet foods? Are they going to start declining their premiumization foods and then kind of more product the lower end ones, or how do you think they forecast that?
I think that's exactly right. I feel like they're going to take like their spending on the organic stuff and put it more on their lower end brands, because even like I believe you just said the employment rate was going to be like, what was it, 32%?
Yeah.
I heard 32.
Yeah. So like I feel like even that, like consumers are gonna have less spending, and especially like I feel like they're not gonna spend like more money than they have to on their pet food, especially like let alone their own food. So I definitely feel like in the long run you won't be seeing like organic stuff, like organic pet food sales like soaring as they once were, like even this past year.
Point that Laura said that college students who are now at home and have more time, that they might, like Roy talked about in the last 2 weeks, that everyone at Lollipop Farm, like all the animals were gone. I think that at least for the next few months, like you could still see that trend as people, like, you know, like they're home, like it's new, they have pets. But I do think that if this goes into the summer, into the fall, that people are going to start getting more worried that don't need. And so I think that could be something that could turn like completely off that industry as well.
Tyler, do you see anything is going through with this?
I think to touch up on the kind of the comparison or not comparison is that they've kind of focused their efforts and their products, and mainly their research and development, into the growth of the organic products. And I think that's something that Kraft Heinz never did, or I don't know if they've ever implemented it, or they're going to, especially now I don't think they are, that their products are more low end, and now in a recession or in a downturn, you're going to see people buying more of those. And it'll be interesting to see if dog food companies now get away from the premiumization of these products, because that's Kraft Heinz never got into the organic premium products. So I it's not comparison that these companies have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's a fascinating topic. Any other thoughts from anybody on this whole topic?
I think
the only thing we conclude is that Corona or COVID-19 is going to impact demand of a lot of products.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Great. So I'll put that out there. If you got any other, and then just go back and look, and when everybody has a comment or something. Mitchell, Roy, and Tyler, glad to have you with us this morning. Might be a real good discussion.
Will that count as one of our three or no?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
So you can get that out of the way.
Right on.
Yeah. So some of these might be easier. When you do take the quiz today, allow yourself time, but think as you're going with the quiz. Don't just answer. It's not meant to be complex. You got to think. Okay.
Perfect.
How long do you think the quiz will take?
I don't know. 2 hours.
2 hours?
All right.
I think it should be about 2 hours, more or less. Yes, it should be. And if you were watching and listening to everything we've been talking about, it should take you 2 hours or less.
Any helpful hints?
Don't over-engineer. Okay.
All right.
What is the question being asked? Make sure it's displayed easy to understand. Okay, so look at when there's one that's got to put an Excel folder file up. It's worth 5.25 points, I think. Just make sure it looks right and it's answering the question.
Okay.
Look at the question. It's asking you do this. What about that? Okay, and just think. Don't go anything more.
Okay.
Okay. We could get lost, and I don't want you to get lost. Okay. And you want to think about, well, we're going through, and I've called them COVID-19 questions because they're clearly changing. And you want to say, well, in today's environment, there's unknowns. What do we know? We know that profit will be impacted. There will be lower revenues for many companies, higher expenses. We know that's going to change. So the question is, how can companies survive? Well, if you look at it, if they have a strong balance sheet and availability of credit, they will be able to withstand this. If you don't have sufficient working capital, you don't have sufficient access to credit, there's no way you'll survive. Okay? So you want to look at a strong company. First question that would be, what's a strong company? How do you determine what strong is? The other thing is, do they have an enduring long-term strategy that's not going to materially change? Okay. So let's just take the one that you just looked at, Purina. Is that strategy of premium dog food something that is going to really be there on the long term? Do they have the process? Do they have that in play? Good question. Short term, and we'll do this on Thursday, is when we're making assumptions. If Purina, as an example, said they're going to try to increase the production of premium dog food by 20% in the next 3 years, we look at that to say, no, that's not something. We can pretty definitively say that Purina could not increase the sales of healthy foods at 20% a year for the next 3 years.